Record to the cloud. All right, we are live. Welcome in, ladies, to day 4, which is our final day of this Business Breakthrough Challenge. So today I really wanted to I'll run through a quick recap of all the days, and then also I'm going to talk about how to pull it all together. So obviously the whole goal of this whole challenge has been how to grow a targeted audience quickly so that you can start selling out your high ticket offers. And basically at the end of the day, what everyone has said is they're either finding it hard to attract the right people, they have a hard time finding clients, they have no way to pull leads in consistently. Those were kind of the words that you all told me coming into this. And so I think we've definitely covered a lot of that this week. I think a lot of you have had like this big aha moment where you're like, oh my gosh, I could literally just borrow other people's audiences by hosting collaborative events to pull in the right people. And obviously we talked about on day 1, I'm going to go back and just flip over my handy dandy chart so that I don't have to reinvent the wheel here. But basically what we talked about is the fact that market research to find out who your ideal client truly is so key. Because even if you've been at this for a while, a lot of us still aren't super clear on who we actually want to pull in or what the end result or transformation can be for them. And it gets much clearer, much faster if we start talking to those real people. So I always say like the 30 and 30 days for your market research is invaluable. You should almost be paying those people to get that information from them. Obviously we don't have to, but it's like, it's that important in your business to know thy target inside and out. And so the other thing we talked about is there's 4 pieces of your business that you're going to be bouncing back and forth, ping-ponging off of, thinking that that's the problem in your biz. Especially if you're listening to all the noise online. It's like, oh, your messaging's off, or your offers aren't selling. You have to build a better offer, or your content's not converting because you don't know how to create compelling content, or maybe you just don't know how to sell, or your sales system or your sales process is broken. But at the end of the day, you can go in circles forever trying to figure those things out, and you will never know if they're actually true or if they're actually working or not unless you have leads coming through them. So that's why I say we have to focus on growing a targeted audience first, because I personally did this little school of life failure circle for a long time. And what I realized was I didn't have any ideal clients coming towards me. So how was I supposed to know if my content was converting, or if my offers were any good, or if my messaging was speaking to the right person? I didn't have any eyeballs coming and looking at my stuff. So in order for us to move forward, so this is, if you're just starting, I know some of you have said, you're just kind of getting started in business, then I swear to God, we are literally cutting off a ton of the pain. I call it the pain train. We're shortening the window that you are going to spin your wheels and feel like you're spinning in circles, not knowing what to work on next. It's like we're going to build the foundations of how to acquire customers. And as soon as we can establish that, then all of a sudden we start to build out better messaging, better offers, better content, and more accurate sales flow. So hopefully that's making sense. I just wanted to kind of recap that quickly. The other thing we talked about is the fact that when we go out and do market research, when we host virtual events, which of course is like basically everything that I've been talking about this week, the connection that you will build with real people is the key. So when you host an event, you're going to ask questions. This is another piece of this puzzle that I haven't really covered yet, but market research is so key because your ideal client will change and evolve as you do. So yes, at the very beginning, 30 and 30 days of actual like going out and reaching out in the DMs, like I have obviously like an easy, simple flow for that. It's so key to get that jump start on it. But then after a while, you don't have to go out and reach out one by one anymore, because now you've created the momentum in your business with your events and stuff. You're just asking simple questions when people are coming into your events. Like, what's the number one thing you're struggling with when it comes to XYZ, which is about that topic. You know what I mean? So when you all signed up for this, I also asked you for your Instagram handle, because I have spent a lot of time creating content on Instagram for quite a bit now. And I wasn't seeing any results. Like my story views weren't increasing. My content didn't like feel like anything was happening. And then one day I was like, oh my God, like I've been running summits, building my email list, and directing traffic to a Facebook group, which is what we're all in right now. But I had never directed any traffic that I was generating to my Instagram. So why would I focus? This is just like hopefully a wake up or an aha for any of you who have felt this similar frustration. If you are posting and praying on social media and you're not directing traffic to that platform, then you're going to continue to hear crickets because the platforms are not going to help you out. You know what I mean? Like you actually have to build a presence and a community wherever it is that you want that community and presence to be seen and heard. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. And everybody's like, oh, you know, you got to get doing 100 reels. And I actually had a reel that went viral, I guess you could call it. I think it was over like, I don't know, 20,000 views or something like that. But like the amount of single dads or like sugar daddies or like gym buff dudes and like all this other stuff, those were the followers that I ended up getting off of that viral video. Like that's not my ideal client. That's not the right traffic for me. So we get so caught up in these vanity metrics of followers and stuff like that, when really you just have to focus on the quality of the people that you're bringing in. So at the beginning, you're going to give yourself a jump start with your market research because some of those people are going to come into your world and they're going to be literally, I had Lucy, if you're watching the replay, I know you are. Thank you so much for your voice note the other day. She said, Mara, I just wanted to get in here. She voice noted me and say, thank you so much for finding me. That's literally the words she started her voice note with. And she said, I came to your challenge. I saw day one. I'm so inspired and I'm so grateful that you invited me. And not to say that every single person is going to be like that, but what if I made a huge difference for her and how stuck she was before? And now she feels like, oh, I have another piece to move forward with now, right? You get to be that piece for somebody else too. And so when I'm talking over and over about focus on the process, not the instant results, you could say, okay, I went out and did my market research and I didn't land a single client. And I'll say, well, that's cool. Like, that's fine because market research is actually meant for market research. But now you have a lot more words from ideal clients that you can use to put into your titles of your events and your content and all these other things. So what I'm teaching this week is a process, and it's to build out a system for you to generate consistent sales in your business. So we're obviously focusing on lead gen and sales. That's kind of my main focus because ultimately most women that I work with are ambitious moms. We don't have 80 hours a week or 60 hours a week to put into our businesses, and we don't want to anyway. So we have to take the guesswork out of all of this. Like, where do I go to find clients? And what do I post to bring people in? And what do I blah, 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 blah. You just want to, you want to follow a system or a process, which is what we talked about this week, so that you get all those answers. Every day you're closer, every day you're clearer. That's the thing you're going to tell yourself. I literally journal that in the morning now. And my world has shifted so much since I started doing that because literally a puzzle piece will drop in for me every single day now. And I never know where it's coming from, but it will just be either an intuitive hit or it'll be something somebody said that I'm hearing. So every day closer, every day clearer. And what you're ultimately going for is your big vision, your income goal, right? So this is what we talked about on day one. Connection creates clarity, confidence, and commitment to one direction, right? And all of these things create consistency with your actions, which means consistency with results, which means if you stay the course and stay committed, you will end up with consistent sales. So that's what we're talking about. This whole, I always say all roads have to lead to sales. Otherwise we're not in business, right? Not a nonprofit that we're running here. So the other thing we talked about was messaging. So when you're doing your market research, the whole point is to get super clear on your messaging because you want to be talking straight down the middle of the freeway to this lane only. You're only talking to B. You're not talking to A and C because if you're talking to everybody, nobody can hear you. It's a traffic jam. But if B can hear you, A and C can choose to merge into that lane. See what I'm saying? Okay, so I think we covered that pretty well in day one. So if you haven't seen day one and you're watching the replay right now, you can go back and we went over this a lot more. But I just want to recap it for you because when we get into our collaborative events and our event stacking for Nurture and Convert, we want to have those words that are speaking straight down the middle to B so that those are the types of people that are coming in. Okay, so we talked about the power of collaborative events. So basically what I use as an example all the time is summits, but there are other collaborative events that you can run. Basically what you want is an anchor to pull in consistent leads. Because yes, in our world, we're going to build out other masterclasses, workshops, challenges, and stuff like that that are going to nurture and convert people. But you also want the big bang for your buck in terms of the leads coming in, and you want to know that they're there. So when I run my summits, I usually have like a pretty big list filled, and then I pull the cream up, the cream rises to the top in terms of the people who are ready right now to take a next step. And not all of them are going to be ready right now buyers, but you are going to pull the ready right now buyers up in the next phase by hosting your next events to nurture and convert, because they're going to raise their hand and say, yes, I'm interested in that topic. Yes, I want to come and hear more about what you have to say, right? This is the nurture process. There's no magic solution or secret sauce. You're building relationships and serving people until they feel like the timing is right for them to jump in with you. So you're inviting people into your world to work with you in a non-salesy, non-sleazy, no gimmick, bait and switch crap. There's no salesy tactics here. My background is sales, and I'll tell you right now that if you want to be successful as a salesperson, you have to learn how to build relationships first, hands down. So we talked about collaborative events, and we map them out first, which we've already started to work on. Like, what kind of themes would you want to use for the next 3 summits, like big collaborative events? And then we talked about, like, okay, yesterday we said, let's put a date to them so that you actually fit them on your calendar for when it would work for you. And then next we would go and build it out, which is literally, this is the easy part, the build it out. The making the decision to actually do it is the hardest part. So one thing that I'm talking about a lot today, when we're talking about pulling everything together, one thing I want you guys to really take away from today is decide, trust, and move. That's your process. So you're going to make a decision, you're going to pick a theme, you're going to pick the number of speakers, you're going to pick the date that you're going to host it, you're going to just make that decision, you're going to trust that it's going to work out, and you're going to move. And you're going to start going through the checklist of all the things that you have to do to build out your summit, your first summit. Today I was thinking about an analogy for all of this. And again, I was thinking about the other day when I was talking about the bowling alley, where, when you're a kid and you learn how to bowl, they put the bumpers up for you and there's 10 pins down at the end. So when you first learn how to do this, you're knocking the balls all the way down the thing, and sometimes you fall off the end and sometimes you hit 1 or 2. And if we're thinking about this, actually worked out well, because 10 pin bowling, there's 10 pins at the end of the lane. And if most of us are after 10K months consistently, if you said 5K, I hazard to guess that you probably just don't know if 10K is possible for you yet. So I'm going to stretch you just in this analogy for now. But that's a separate issue that we can deal with. But if 10K or more is your kind of end goal, then think about the bumpers being up. And that's the process we're talking about this week, which is we're going to run virtual events. We're going to stack them. You're going to really know your target client inside out, and you're going to learn more as you bump your way down the bowling alley to the pins. And then at the end of it, the best part about this process is that you can get paid while you figure your process out. So you are going to have some people that are the ready right now buyers that are going to come in and be like, thank you for finding me. Like, this is amazing. I want to work with you. How do we do that? You are going to have that happen. So if we're aiming down the alley at our 10 pins, maybe sometimes you're throwing the ball, you're learning how to put your fingers in the balls and which weight of balls is better for you. And you're trying to figure out your footwork, so that you don't fall when you hit the line and you go too far and it's the slidey stuff, right? Like, this is all, it's like the perfect analogy for focusing on the process, because sometimes people don't show up to your stuff, and sometimes speakers cancel last minute. And sometimes it's going to feel like you get off of a masterclass or something and you're like, I didn't like that at all. Like, that didn't feel good to me at all. Like, why did I even say that? But that's okay, because it's the process, not the instant result that we're focused on, because the next one will be better and better and better. So you're going to figure out your ball, the favorite weight, how you like to do your twinkle toes before you run down. And eventually you throw enough balls down that now you're hitting 8 at a time or 9 at a time. And eventually you will start hitting 10. And then eventually you hit 10 consistently. And that's when you start to explode. And when you get extra points, when you hit all 10 at the same time, I don't know how many you get, but I wasn't the scorer. I was just the one that was there playing. So is that a good analogy for literally you don't know what to do when you first get there, and that's okay. You're gonna look a little dumb when you throw the first couple balls, and that's okay. I know some of you have said, like, I don't have camera confidence. And it's like, that's cool. I'll tell you, the only way to get through that is by doing it. So if you feel like, oh my gosh, I could not get on Zoom and talk in front of 100 people. I'm going to tell you right now that 100 people aren't going to show up to your first event live. So don't worry about that. That's not a thing. And then I'm also going to say that when you have any kind of like camera shyness or hesitation there, it's like you're making that about you and not about the people that you're actually serving. And we have to get into this place where we truly believe that what we have to offer is the best solution for somebody. So when we talked a little bit this week about, like, Yondell, we've talked about this a couple of times. It's like imposter syndrome creeps up for you and a lot of people in your audience, which is cool because often we actually mirror what we end up teaching. So if you can figure out how to get through that first, now you can bring other people through that process. The reason that I have the process that I have now that I can teach is because I sucked and failed my way forward forever. And now I figured out how I can create predictable lead generation and sales in my business. And so that's what I'm teaching now because I sucked at it first. And so anybody that has any camera confidence issues or anything like that, just so you know, like, we all sweat like pigs and got shaky and skipped our words, and we all started there. We don't, a lot of people, especially introverts, will say like, well, it's easy for extroverts because they're just so blah, 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 blah. And it's like, actually, I would say that extroverts have to learn how to rein it in an online format more, which is interesting. Introverts actually are very calm, cool, collected, get to the point, and are able to articulate very well often the value that they can bring in a way that somebody else can see very quickly and very clearly, which is why somebody like Liz, for example, who is not a salesperson in any stretch, actually is really good at sales because she doesn't come across as aggressive or pitchy or salesy, right? So it's kind of cool how this all comes together. Anyways, collaborative events just means you're going to pull a bunch of other entrepreneurs in your space, in your niche, in your field, and you're going to pull them all together on a common theme, and they're going to invite their audiences to it, and that's going to build your targeted list quickly. And it's value for all three of you. So you, of course, are building your community. You're allowing them to showcase a freebie or give something away, and they have exposure. So people that are like rising cream of the crop in that person's, field of expertise will go with that person. And when we talk about collaboration versus competition, it's the most powerful thing in the world because it takes away that gross, icky shark pit feeling that we all had in corporate. That was my background. So collaborative events. The other thing that I didn't really talk about a whole lot this week, though, is once you start hosting your own events enough, like your own collaborative events, eventually you start getting asked onto other people's stages because now you have an email list built, and now you have a presence, and now you have an authority, and they like your style or they like your vibe or whatever, and you guys get along. I think I was invited onto one podcast for the first 8 months that I was hosting events. And in the last 2 months, I've been asked on 8 other people. Like, I'm literally like, I don't know if I can even fit that into my marketing calendar because I don't want to email my list too often with other people's events, because you can overdo it, of course. So I'm trying to make sure that it's tastefully done. But I also know that there's a lot of women in my community who can get a lot of value from some of the events that I'm now being asked to go to. So it's like, it's kind of cool because 8 in the last 2 months I have been asked to speak on. And I haven't had to do any of that work. And just like my speakers, when they show up to my events, they get a certain number of people that will jump into their free gift or their freebie. So you do want to have freebies, but those are not the things that you depend on at the beginning. You need to jumpstart and kickstart your lead generation yourself. You need to be in control of that piece of your business first. Is that making sense? Okay, so then we're like, okay, now we have an audience. We're starting to build some leads. Now what do we do with them? So yesterday we talked a lot about how you're going to stack events behind your summits, which are their events. Obviously, this is I call it a 6-figure event strategy. So you're going to have your summits as your main anchors to pull people in. And then you're also going to have your events behind it so that you can pull those people who are ready right now, are very interested in your topics, that will rise to the top. So yesterday we just did like a super simple, and thank you to a lot of you who did the homework. Hey, Janine, I just saw you just joined. Decide, trust, and move. Yes, write that on my fridge, she says. I love it. Okay, so I asked all of you to do a quick 6-month event stacks, map or schedule for yourselves. So a lot of you, I think 3 of you already dropped them in. Thank you for doing that. And I was like reading them sideways right before we hopped on. I love the clarity that some of you have had. Even Katie, I love the fact that you were like, I would like to run a 5-day challenge and like run the same one and keep it going. I totally agree with that, especially if you know that that's something that would add a lot of value. Maybe you've already done some events and you feel like that is the thing that most people need. So that's great that you can repeat that. But now knowing that you're going to create summits that are your anchor for your lead generation, you're always going to have new people coming in. And also, even for me, I find a lot of people will come to my challenges on like more than once, even the business breakthrough challenge, which I've changed a little bit because now I focus so much more on the lead gen piece. But a lot of them have come 2 or 3 times before they've signed up, and that's very normal. So, but you're also going to get the feedback from the connection as long as you're being a real person and serving those people every time they show up to understand where they're at in the process. And also when they actually do decide to join or buy or whatever, or come and work with you, what was the difference? Was it timing for them, or was it something different that you've shifted into, and what's working better, right? So when I talk about the bumpers being up, you're figuring this out as you go. So this was kind of cool because it was like, let's put some dates now, right? And I think a lot of you probably feel like, yeah, okay, I could see this happening. I could see this coming. Well, that is the quick recap on what we did the first 3 days. So today I wanted to just talk about how we pull it all together. So, I was thinking about it a lot this morning, and I was like, I don't have the perfect way to explain this. So I'm just going to go explain it how I know best, which is to just put it into like a visual of a funnel. So that's what I'm going to do. So basically what we're talking about, I think most of us, like I said at the very beginning, are after, I love the idea of like 6-figure sales and time for your life. That's the ambitious mom movement, like motto. That's what I've been going for the whole time. I wanted to go first and then show other women that they could come and do it too. Yes, you can totally reuse stuff, especially if you think people are enjoying it or it's working. Then that becomes one of your like staples. And you can also use replays and stuff like that as a freebie or as an offer or as a paid something down the road. Like as soon as you start to find something that works for you, we hone in on that. So that's half the battle, is just finding out like what converts best, what works best, what nurtures your ideal client best. So yes, great question. Definitely, if we find something that's working well, we're going to use that for sure. And you can repeat it, or you can change the title of it a little bit, just play around with it. Like that's the whole idea of trying these things until you find the ones that are your firecrackers. Okay, what am I talking about? Oh, basically where we all want to be is in a place where we are no longer struggling to find clients. We want new problems in our business, right? We want to have new problems where we're trying to hire teammates, or we're trying to scale, or we're trying to figure out how to improve our program. Those are the problems that I think a lot of us would rather have than I can't find anybody to work with. So what I'm teaching this week is all about, if you could spend the next 6 months just figuring out your ideal client inside and out, attracting them in, nurturing and converting them so that you're getting paid to figure out what works best for you and your ideal client. Remember the X factor, where they intersect, that's your sweet spot. That's the whole goal of focusing on the process, not the result. Because you will get results with consistent action. But we're trying to figure out what is your process, what is your style, what is your voice. And we can figure all that out by going through this process. So this is just my quick analogy. The key is the process. I think we've all seen a bazillion of these like graphics, but this is how I like to break it down. So when we're talking about, we have to start with our who first. Otherwise you end up going to all of these. I've done this myself. I went to all these things, all these high ticket programs, all these courses, all these everything. And I never got clear first on who it is that I wanted to pull in or how I wanted to serve them. I always knew I wanted to help ambitious moms. I always knew that I wanted to, you know what I mean? Like high level, but it's very high level. It was never specific. And as soon as I started doing market research and talking to real people, things moved quickly in my business. And that's the relief that I want you guys to have too. So first we get super clear on who it is. We spend that time, we do that market research. It's key. Then we're going to figure out how we attract these people in. And I think collaborative events are the fastest way. You can have the fanciest killer lead magnet or quiz or whatever you want to call it on your site, but that should be complimentary, like in addition to your main lead gen source. You can run ads, but if you don't have your messaging nailed in yet for your who, then you also are going to struggle with ads and spend a lot of money there. I know this because I did it. Well, like thousands and thousands of dollars I spent, never knowing who I was really talking to or pulling in. You can do a DM strategy one by one. Can we just talk about that for a second? People don't want to have somebody reach out to them for small talk. Well, at least I don't. Maybe it's because I'm busy, but I think most moms are busy and most of us work with moms on some level. But here's another example of somebody who's jumped into my DM cold. Hi there, Mara. It's awesome to have another professional in my network. I checked out your profile and it looks like you're doing quite well for yourself. When did you start out with your business? So of course, that's just chit chat, BS, small talk. And I don't want to talk about small talk. If she had come in and said, listen, I'm this type of coach. You seem like my kind of a client. Can I ask you a couple of questions? I would have been like, yeah, sure. But no, now she hit me back again this morning because I didn't respond. But I'm sure she saw that I saw the message on Monday. What is it today? Thursday? Thursday. So 4 days. So she has, I mean, it's okay to have a process in the background for reaching back around, but drop me a message when you get a chance. I'd love to hear when you started your business. I'm never going to respond to that message. So when I talk about the DM strategy for market research, I mean, literally state your intention. That's why I keep getting so many people that actually answer the questions, because I'm actually legitimately doing market research. And I'm really happy that they're going to answer the questions, but I say that straight up in my messages that go out. I don't say, it looks like you're doing quite well for yourself. When did you start out with your business? Because that is somebody that's trying to small talk, and I don't have time for small talk. Just state your intention and move forward. So I just want to say that to anybody, if you have a DM strategy right now that is similar to that, please ask me how to reword it so that we can actually get you some traction, because that is just terrible strategy if you ask me. I know some people think, well, if you send out 1,000 of them, eventually some hit. And I'm like, yeah, but who are the people that are actually the quality of the leads, when we're talking about quality again instead of quantity? Who are the quality of people who are actually responding to that kind of small talk? Not very many. I know that Liz, for example, because she's so introverted, she literally would reach out to people and say, hey, I think it was something along the lines of, hey, I'm a true introvert. I find it really out of my comfort zone to reach out to other people. I saw that you're in this mom's Facebook group. I would love to just have a coffee chat and connect with you and find out a little bit more about, where you're at in your business right now. And a lot of people said yes to her because a lot of other people are in that exact same boat. But do you see the difference between, hey, this is really hard for me and I would love to just connect and chat, would you be open to it? And people are like, yeah, that actually sounds good to me. Like a lot of people actually responded to her because that was her reach out message. And that is very different than, la, 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 when did you start your business? It's like, oh, gross. Anyways, I'm way off track on a tangent, but please don't do that in the DMs. Okay, so anyways, that might be an attraction strategy, but I don't recommend that small talk crap. What else did I write down in there? Oh, and then post and pray on social media. So if you don't actually have momentum building in your social media, then it's going to be very difficult to get clients from there, unless you're into the small talk DM strategy, I guess. But I really find it so much, well, we talked about this again yesterday. If you only have 18 to 20 hours a week to really work, then you want bang for your buck when you're after your leads, right? And in order to not be in that graspy, desperate, gross, small talk energy, we need to have something that is like what's the right word for it? I'm so close to it, but it's like your big bang. It's like your bang for your buck, your summits, your anchors. You need something that you know for sure is going to bring in a certain number of the right people into your world, because otherwise you're just posting and praying and wasting your time. So the whole idea of this event stacking and strategy is that you anchor it with collaborative events so that you know for sure that people are coming. Now, are there going to be some speakers that don't promo? Yes. Am I going to teach you how to set it up so that that isn't very likely? Yes, because we set that up in the initial interview conversations that we have with potential speakers. Very easy to do, very important to do it though, because if you run your summit and you put all this effort into it and then only 13 people join because nobody actually promoted to their audience, you're going to be disappointed. So we're going to avoid that by making sure that we have that conversation with each speaker in the interview process. It's just such an easy way to set yourself up for success. But again, you can do all the little gimmicky strategies, freebies, lead magnets, quizzes. There's so many different things, but even SEO is great, but it takes so long and you have to put out really good, consistent content consistently for 6 to 12 months before you're going to see traction there, which is awesome. But again, should be a complementary lead gen source. And eventually maybe that takes over for you and that's awesome, but you still need to make money in the meantime. So that's why we're going to use events. So collaborative events first, and we're going to nurture. So now you have real people that have come into your world. Now they're on your email list, and probably you've directed them somewhere on social because you want both, ideally. Not everyone from the email list is going to jump into wherever you're directing them on social, but just know that you have the power to start directing traffic once you start owning your own email list, which is the best. It's an asset that you own. You don't own social media. And all of us know people. I know like 3 people recently who have had their accounts completely just poof, thin air, either hackers or just Instagram or Facebook just shuts them down for no reason. And now everything that they've built is gone, right? So you need to build your email list because you own it. That is yours. Nobody can take that away. And Del, did you have that happen to you? You were like, yeah.
That happened to me last year, like right after 2 weeks after I had my baby. It happened.
That's crazy, actually, because my friend Marion just had that happen.
I lost my Facebook and Instagram.
Did you get them back?
Yeah, and I never got it back. I had to start. No.
You never got it back? How many?
I never got it back. It was both my Facebook and my Instagram. Like okay, about 1,000.
How 5,000 people? Oh, frick. Okay, well, then you know inside and out. You have thousands of people on your social media. You can literally lose them in a heartbeat. And you have no control over that and literally no recourse. Everyone just thinks, oh, I'll just contact Facebook and they'll take care of it. But they don't. It's some people do get them back. A lot of people don't. So it's so key to make sure that you are not just building a following on social media, that you're pulling them to an asset that you own, which is your email list, hands down. Okay, so collaborative events, build your email list first. That's the beautiful thing about it. And then you're hosting somewhere else, which then you're directing traffic to. Oh, you're back.
I'm back. Sorry, I was on my computer and I don't know. It's always better on my phone. Like I was glitching.
No worries.
Yeah.
So did you have an email list built when you lost your social?
I did have an email list built, but it was weird. I had a feeling, I don't know if you remember, it was like over a year ago when Facebook shut down, like you couldn't do anything on Facebook for a few hours. And I kept telling because I have a group on Facebook and I kept saying, get on the list because when I'm on maternity leave, like this is how I'm going to communicate to you on the email list. And I kept pushing them, but not a lot of people jumped onto the list. It was just a mess. To tell you this, because it's like, you teach it to people, like always you don't own Facebook, you don't own these social media platforms, you own your list. But then when it happens to you, it's really, really hard.
Yeah.
It was a mess. So like I had about 300 people or maybe 200 plus people in my Facebook group. Now I have 82, I think. And I had about a little over 1,000 people on Instagram. And now I have like, I think 400, 300, 400. I don't know. It's been something.
Yeah. No, yeah. I get that. Okay. Well, once again, like when you're building collaborative events, the
Mhm.
first place they land is on your email list, which is now you can direct them. And
Can I
if
ask
you
you a quick question about, so if in the summit, like if you're, one of your speakers is like an expert on blank, like whatever the thing is, but they're not a coach. And so, you know, we understand about, you know, freebies and email lists and, you know, like that is just part of our world. But if they are not part of the coaching world, is it appropriate to ask them to still post on their on private social media or on their like email out their contacts that would be appropriate, you know, if
Great
it was
question. I would not be inviting speakers that don't have an email list, but it doesn't have to be a coach for them to have. If they're in business and they have an online presence, even professionals, generally, like even chiropractors, they have huge email lists.
right. So it might be appropriate to ask for them to email out to their
I actually
list.
say there are promo requirements. Do you agree to them? Otherwise, you can't be on my summit. And I don't say it quite like that, but that's the gist of it. So if they're not willing to email their list, then it's not a good fit for us to work together because and this is just me being honest with them, it's a collaborative event where every single speaker is going to be emailing their audience and bringing people to the table, and it's a cross-pollination. So if you want that exposure and you would like the opportunity to take clients away from it, then you have to also bring your people to the table in case they resonate well with somebody else. That's the spirit of a collaborative event like that. That's why I don't pay my speakers or anything. It's like literally like a true collaboration. So anybody who's like, oh, well, I wouldn't email my list for something like this. And you could just say, yeah, no, that's totally fair. I totally understand. And that's, you know, that's your call. You know, maybe in the future we could collaborate together on you know, a joint live or something else. But I don't invite people who aren't willing to collaborate because I look for that collaborative spirit first.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
Yeah. That's a great question though. And honestly, like all my speakers will post and promo on their social as well, but social is not what I'm focused on. It's always, are you
Their email
willing
list.
to email your list?
So do you only, based off of what you just said, because that was good, you only really push the email list when you're asking if they agree to the terms? You're only push, you don't say, can you post on social media too? You just,
Ask them for both, but I don't do very much if they don't post.
Okay.
If they post one time on social, 1 or 2 times, like that's good enough for me because the real bang for your buck comes from the emails.
okay.
How do you know, like if, I mean, obviously if they are posting on social, you can see that, like if you're following them, but, you know, if Yandel was gonna be my speaker and I sent her like, you know, here is you know, a sample email that you could send out to your people. How do I know she sent it out?
Hi, Ella.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us. So just great question, Lee. So I send out a promo package and I tell them all this in the speaker interview at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I'll literally say, hey, here are the promo requirements. I will be sending you out all the materials for your audience and you can just tweak it however you want it for your voice to go to your people. And
Right.
then I will send them social graphics as well as a couple emails and a tracking link that's individual to them so that I can see who, like I can literally just open up my Rebrandly, it's called, it's just like Bitly. And I can see exactly how many clicks have come through from each speaker so that I'm also able to follow up a few days before and just say, hey, I just wanted to check in. Did you get my promo package? I see that there haven't been any clicks on your link. So that holds them accountable, but often people are just like, oh my gosh, yes, sorry, thank you for reminding me. I'll go do it right now. Because a lot of the time, especially with busy people, you know, they want the reminder, to be honest with you. So I send out my promo packs usually a week to 10 days before, not any sooner. Depends on your speakers and how organized they are and whatever. I've only ever had one speaker that contacts me and she's been on multiple times and she's like, do you have my stuff ready yet? And I'm like, no, you're so organized. You know? She's like, aren't we promoing in 2 weeks? I'm like, yes, in 2 weeks. Like I haven't created my graphics yet. I'm not, you know, I like to I like a little pressure in my life. So I wait till closer to the end. But that's my style, and they all know that about me, right? Quick and dirty is true for me. Like, it's just, we're gonna get in and get it done and get going here. So depending though on your speakers, if you have people that you know are very, organized and very ready ahead of the game, then you're gonna want to create your promo packs ahead of time.
Okay.
So for the, I think you said, what is it called? Brandly for the link, the custom link?
Rebrandly,
Rebrandly. Okay.
It's free.
Is that service free or is that like an additional add-on? Because I think that's so cool. So where you can send personalized links. Okay, because that was the next thing I was gonna ask you, if like on the back end, when you send them the link for them to register for the event, do you like have them click off which speaker sent them? But you kind of answered that. It's much easier with that link. Okay.
Yeah, I try to make it as easy and streamlined as possible. And also on your opt-in page, you want to keep things short and sweet, but you know how you probably heard this a lot of times, like only put first name and email on an opt-in page so that there's no distractions and you won't lose anyone because they don't want to answer questions. People will tell you that all the time. And I'm like, well, even if I lose 5% of the people that come to the page because they don't feel like answering 1 or 2 extra questions that are super simple, I'm fine with that because it gives me so much market research information.
Yeah.
I'm hosting a summit for example, for 6-figure lead gen that I did in July. It was like, what's the number one thing that you struggle with when it comes to finding, I can't remember exactly how I said it, but like, it's like, what's the number one thing that you struggle with when it comes to lead gen? So I was like, name, email, that, and I think that was all I asked. Or how many years have you been in business? 0 to 1 or 2+? Like, that's what I ask now. Because I'm always curious. Are you just getting started or have you been at this for a bit? Because the questions and the answers are usually very different, depending if somebody's been at this for 2 years or more, very different information that they want to come in. So when I'm doing my questions coming into any of my events, I'm asking that information because of my B track, when I'm talking to B.
Okay.
Mara, I have a question. When you are looking for speakers, how do you check how big they have the email list? So
you can ask them if you want to, but
it's not rude, like how many clients you have on your email list?
No, I mean, I used to always you have to decide whether you're there's a couple of different camps with this specific question. There's the people that won't put you on their summit if you don't have at least 5 or 10,000 people on your email list. And then there's the people like me who went through that a couple times because I was told that was the right way to do it. And then I was like, no, I don't like this. This doesn't feel good to me. So I have a couple different ways that I like to gauge whether I think someone has a large email list or not. Most people that have a large Facebook group, for example, will have a big email list. So if they have 5 or 10,000 people in their group, like they'll have a good size list because most of them have entry questions, including emails coming into a community like that. If you have somebody that runs a lot of events, if they have, like, you can tell that it's a strong presence on social media with constant calls to action to something that they would download, then you know that they have an email list. Like, there's a few different ways like that you can tell. And then at the end of your speaker interview, you can literally just say, what did I used to say? Just for my own, I can't remember, I'll have to get you the actual wording, but it was basically like, just for my own information purposes or something like that, would you mind sharing your list size with me? And then they would say, oh yeah, sure. And so they would literally tell me how many people are on the email list. And then after that, I would have to say, oh shoot, sorry, like that doesn't fit for me. And then I was like, I am not this person, so I refuse to do this moving forward. So I would just go out and do more homework on my end. And then even if they had 25 or 3,000 people or 1,200 people, if you've got somebody with, well, if you've got somebody with, so here's the thing. When you have Rebrandly links, you can tell how many clicks each speaker brings through. And what I started to notice was if they were newer coaches, like newer established entrepreneurs, like within the last 3 years, really had kind of started to hit their stride, a lot of them are going to have a very engaged list. versus somebody who's been in business for 10 or 11 years and has 6,000 people on their list. You would get the same amount of clicks and people coming through from the more engaged person's list. So it's not necessary. I mean, that's what they teach in the high level programs from the gurus, because I was in those programs. But honestly, I have found that when you start to look at the data that's actually coming in, because you're tracking each individual speaker, you're actually getting quite a lot of bang for your buck from the people who are the up and comers who have like, I would say that my list is very engaged. I have over 1,000 people, and that has literally been built in 14 months. And a lot of them have fallen off. So the people that are still on are the ones who haven't unsubscribed. Do you know what I mean? Because you want to clear out your email list and keep it relevant so that, you know, you only have people that are opening your stuff. So if you're somebody that has been at this for 10 years and you have 20,000 people on your email list, but you send out an email to your list and only 7 people show up, like that's not as valuable to me as someone who has 1,000 or 2,000 and a solid Facebook group, and they promoted it, and, you know, 30 people came through from there, or 40, you know, from their list. So
do you ask the speakers to sign a contract with you, or?
Yeah, I make that very simple, nonchalant. It's just a Google Doc. I'll say, hey, I'll send over a speaker's agreement. It'll ask you for your, you know, your headshot and bio and all that stuff. And then if you could please also drop the links to your free gifts in there, that would be awesome. Then we just have all the info. And they're like, yeah, great. Like that's a non-issue.
Mm-hmm. And how you approach the speakers? You approach them by DM or by email?
Yeah, I just go into
Okay.
Do you find that for looking for speakers, is it easier to find somebody in Facebook or someone on Instagram?
I have found Instagram and Facebook both, I would say, equally helpful. I think when I first started out, I looked on Facebook a lot more, and now I'm just kind of having fun with, I think I told you that the other day, like, Instagram's sexy. Like, there's something so fun about the connection piece on Instagram. But also when I was first starting out, I was looking at Facebook groups and finding out who owned them. And then I was asking that person to speak at my summit. So, but now I have a lot of those girls on Instagram. And so, and I ask a lot of my speakers to come back more than once. Not all of them, but like the ones that I have great chemistry with, that I know their people jive with me and my vibe too. Like, and we put on like great events because we have great energy and great chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
That's fun for me. So that's, you know, like another part of this whole focus on the process is to find out what's the stuff that actually feels good to you. Like Ella, you were asking me the other day, like, what do you recommend for like what type of event in terms of like, do you want to drip it out or make the stuff, you know, available all at once or whatever? And I was like, man, the only good way to answer that question is by saying, try a couple of different ways and then figure out which way you like better. Yeah. Like what lights you up lights the way. So it's like, if I love to show up to a 3-hour, this is just my personal style. I love to show up to a 3-hour live event. I usually build between, let's say, 60 to 150 people on each summit, sometimes a little more, never less. It's just like such a fun experience for me because I just reach out to a bunch of my friends now, basically. I'll usually pull in a few new speakers for each one, but I usually have 2 or 3 that are repeaters. Mm-hmm. I'm just like, hey, you want to do a summit? I'm going to do one on like December 12th or whatever. And they're just like, yeah, sure. Just let me know deets. That's it. You know, and then it's just like, here's the speaker's agreement, you know, send, if you want a different headshot this round, send me a different one. Otherwise I'll use the other one, you know, like it's just so easy and it flows so well. And for the new people, I always book a 15-minute speaker connection call just so that I can get a feel for them. We just jump on a Zoom and then I say, hey, here's the topic. Like, what part of that or what piece of that topic do you love to talk about? And then I just sit back and listen. And then I just jot down like usually 1, maybe 2 bullet points on a little Post-it, because Post-its are my thing. And then I literally put it on the wall and I got my summit ready to go. You know what I mean? Like and what was the analogy I came up with this morning that was like, oh shoot, it was like when you're first starting out, let's say exercising, I think that's what it was. If you first start running, for example, like your lungs are burning, you feel like you're going to die, you're keeled over, like leaning on your knees, and you're just like, I don't think I can do this. This is so hard. But after you've done it a couple of weeks, you're like, oh, Now I'm like going for a run and I'm enjoying it. And I have like totally different thoughts in my head when I'm out there, and I'm like, it's just a totally different ball game. Same thing with running all these events. At first, it's going to feel so hard and there's so much to do. And it's like, but really it's just like, we just have to get you through the first couple, because on the other side of that, it just becomes fun and easy. And then you're like, well, that one worked well, or that one didn't work as well as I thought. And just like you guys said, as soon as you start finding a masterclass or a challenge, like Katie had said, that's going to work really well for your energy, as well as the right type of people that you want to pull in, then start running that again. And then once you really nail the messaging and stuff around that type of challenge, now you can add, Facebook ads and stuff like that, because you know how many people you're going to be able to convert from something like that, because you've run it, 3, 4, or 5 times. And now you can start to actually like supplement this lead gen, which it's just like everything will snowball, but you have to get the first part in first, which is what I love about the summits, because they're bang for your buck to grow your audience quickly. And not from a viral reel, and not from, some random, like one of the girls that she's watching replays, and she said, one of my biggest problems is I've had this quiz on my website and it pulled in 3,000 people onto my email list. And they still open, like her open rate on her email list is like 40% or something huge.
Right.
And she's like, but I still haven't been able to convert a single one, even into a $97 offer. And it's like, how frustrated are you if that, because she's like, I know I can help these people. She feels like that frustration of like being the best kept secret. That's what I call it all the time. Do you feel like the best kept secret on the internet? Like Ella, do you feel like you're the best kept web designer ever? And you're like, no one hiring me. Like, I can't understand it. It's just like, well, take a breath. Let's pull in the right leads. Like, let's define exactly who are the people that would want to buy from you right now, how to message, use the right words, nail your message, and then pull them in, with bang for your buck with something like a large event that's collaborative. Like this.
Yeah, for me, the most difficult is to pull out the right words, because English is my second language. So, this is also the barrier. So I have to really take their words and use their words. I think this will work the best.
So I would actually give you this piece of encouragement, which is that even people who English is their first language, messaging is also the hardest part.
I totally agree.
You might actually be at an advantage if you're focused on using their words, because that's what I'm trying to tell everyone who speaks English, to use their words. You know what I mean? Like, everybody struggles with messaging, and it's like, it's something that I personally like. It's one of my favorite things to help somebody else with, but it's also the thing that I struggle with. Like, everybody does. So I can help you nail down your messaging, but I have a bugger of a time trying to nail my own, right? So yes, don't worry. Everybody has problems with messaging, but yeah, you might actually find it easier because you are looking for their words, and that's exactly what you need to do to market to people. Because I think you've seen the replays this week, but it's like, we have to market towards what people want and what they're looking for and what they think their problem or solution is, so that we can actually deliver what they need on the other side. All right. Something that we didn't talk about too much yesterday, just to, holy shnikes, it's 11 o'clock. I'm out of breath again.
It's 6 p.m. here.
It's 11 for me right now. Did I tell you guys that I went to my OB yesterday right after the challenge, and I had an ultrasound the day before, and she's like, yeah, your baby's in the 90th percentile. I was like, oh, man, why couldn't I have a small baby for once? Like, they're all so freaking big. Okay, anyways, so I'm just gonna go through this really quick. We talked about attraction, collaborative events. I could talk about that all day long, why those are the bang for your buck. Nurture, I think your emails, you're going to learn how to email your list regularly. You're going to learn how to put your own voice and your own humor and your own quirkiness and your own weirdness in, so that people get to know you, like you, and trust you. That's one of the hardest things, but I used to feel like it was such a struggle to find something to post about once a week to my email list. And now, I don't know if you guys have been on it for a bit, but now I find it hard not to email my list at least 3 times a week. Like, I'm just like, oh, I have something else to say today. So also, when you're starting to get into the flow of these connections and conversations that we keep talking about, it's so easy to want to share something or an aha or something you learned or something that you had a breakthrough for somebody on that you know other people could benefit from. And when you're talking to bees all the time, now you're able to create content for B so easily, and A and C can still hear you. So for example, when I ask, a lot of the people coming into my summits or my events, how many years in business have you been? It's because I noticed that the topics that the 2+ year people, the questions and the comments and the struggles and the stuff that they're telling me that they need is the stuff that I love to lean into. And A, who's like a driven person who's just starting out or just in their first year of business, can still hear me talking to that 2+ year person, right? And so can the 8-year veteran that still feels like they're spinning their wheels and hasn't been able to get that traction, that clarity that they want. So that C person over there, that's maybe call it 5+ years, can still hear me talking to that 2+ year person. But if I was trying to talk to all 3 of them, nobody would know what the heck I'm talking about. So I love the fact that the more specific you get and the more clear you get on who it is that you're really trying to talk to, the more everybody else can actually hear you too. Just wanted to say that again. So we're going to run events to nurture. This is also where we're going to pull in our emails and our content that's going out on social media. But now you're not hoping and praying that your content on social media is going to do something for you. You just know that it's just another touch point for the people that you're pulling in. Right? And okay, let me just stop right there and say, how amazing would you feel if you weren't constantly trying to figure out what kind of a post you could put out there to make something happen with? Like that frantic, graspy, I don't know what else to do energy. And it's like not cool, not fun. You don't enjoy that process at all. And it doesn't, ultimately, we're hearing crickets on social. A lot of you are saying that. So it's not doing anything for you. But what if you knew that you already had a process to bring in your leads and that social media actually just gets to be fun and a touch point? I realized how powerful that is literally when I realized that I hadn't posted in the last 3 days on Instagram. I've posted in my stories, because it's easy, but I hadn't actually sat down and created anything and put it out there. And then I was like, but that actually doesn't matter because my leads come in from my summits and my events. So it's like, I don't stress anymore about like, oh shoot, I didn't put out a post or 2 today. Like, I just don't worry about that anymore. I just post when it feels good and people like my content because I think it just flows really well out of me. And when I have something to say, I talk about it a lot. But you don't have to rely on that if you have another lead gen source, which is what I'm trying to explain. Okay, and then conversion. So sales, obviously, at the end of the day, you're going to have events where you're nurturing and converting, and some people are going to want to come in and join you or come in and work with you right away. But a lot of them are going to be in the follow-ups. And so whether that's like in the DMs afterwards, or whether they keep watching you afterwards, or whether they keep reading your emails afterwards, there is a follow-up sequence that has to happen for your stuff. Otherwise, you will miss out on 80% of the right now buyers who are ready to go. It's just the stats. And it doesn't mean that you didn't have a great event. It doesn't mean anything. It just means some people actually want that personal connection again, more personal connection, right? So this is the whole procedure.
Mara, are you talking about follow-ups after a summit or after some of your smaller events like a masterclass or workshop?
I don't follow up with people after summits unless it's a, hey, welcome to my community type of a message, just because they don't really know me yet. They're kind of starting the interview process with me, but I love to talk to people at my events or throughout my events or after my events to see, like, it's easy to just reach out and just say, hey, how did you like it? Or, hey, do you still have questions? I know that you had said coming into it that, you were struggling with this, did you get some of the pointers, or did you have any ahas or takeaways? And then other people, you're just going to continue a conversation because you're already in a conversation with them and you know where they're at. Mm-hmm. But it's so powerful to actually have that DM capability. to be able to follow up and not everybody's going to be ready to buy right now. And that doesn't matter. You're still going to be that's why I say, like, if you have enough leads coming at you all at the same time and enough people in your world, then you're never in that like, oh, I really need that person to buy. And then you're hounding them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's stay away from that. And the easiest way to get out of that energy is just to have a lot of people that you're working with and talking to. Yeah. Okay, does anyone have questions on the procedure? Because now I'm going to tell you about my 6-month group program, and then we're going to go to lunch. Ella's going to go to dinner. Questions? No. Okay. So I'm going to make this super short and sweet because I don't need to get fancy with my pitch or my offer, and I'm super transparent. So you guys already know that about me. The whole beautiful thing about the way that I'm teaching my program is that I want to teach you guys exactly how to do this. So imperfect pitches, imperfect launches, imperfect events. That's what I love. Okay, so if you want to come in, I called it the Ambitious Academy. Isn't that fun? It's a 6-month group. We are going to do the real work that moves the needle in our businesses. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do exactly what I just showed you this week. We're going to find your fire first, which I didn't touch on a whole lot in this thing, but I need to know exactly what your vision is, exactly where you want to go. That what I talk about with finding your fire is like your wants versus your shoulds. So that's including your schedule. That's including how much you want to actually work during the week in terms of like how many client calls you have capacity for in your week. Like we're going to dive into like, what does an ideal schedule look like for you? And so that we build out your whole event strategy accordingly, because I don't want anyone to feel overwhelmed or feel resentful of their strategy or their schedule of the business. And we also talked about this yesterday. The last thing you want is to be like guilty about not working or guilty about not spending time with your family. Like we don't want that. That's not what the Ambitious Mom movement is about. It's about being able to do all of it. So yeah, I'll just say that. So find your fire first is what we're going to cover, because I want to dive in with you and know exactly what you want. And then we're going to go in and we're going to figure out exactly who your target is. This is what we're going to cover. It's basically what we did this week. We're going to figure out exactly who your target is. We're going to do the market research. We're going to nail your messaging. And then we're going to pull people into collaborative events. So we're going to grow your audience with the right people for you. And then we're going to nurture and convert. So I'm going to teach you some sales skills to sell it out at the end. Because what I want all of you to have is stop spinning your wheels, stop questioning yourself, stop second guessing what you're doing. You're going to literally make decisions. You're going to trust and you're going to move. So you're going to take action. So it's like when we're talking about the events, it's like we're going to map them, we're going to build them, we're going to execute them. Simple as that. Like we're just going to go through this. And it's going to be 6 months of running stacked events, not in a way that overwhelms you, but just in a way that allows you to get really clear on your sales process. And we're going to be generating solid leads in the meantime. That's one of the keys. So we're going to nail down, remember those 4 things we talked about at the beginning: your messaging, your offers, your content, and your sales. And all of that's going to happen through the process of this event strategy that I'm teaching. And it's going to be us focusing on your process, not the instant results, so that by the end of the 6 months, you're like, yes, I'm in flow. Yes, I love doing these. I love these kind of events. I don't love these ones. You know, you're really going to come through it. The hardest part about doing these on your own without support is just the fact that when you have information versus taking action with support, you flail a lot and you spin your wheels. And that's really, really hard to do, as I'm sure a lot of you know. So come in here and pick my freaking brain and let me be your coach, your sounding board, everything that you need. I just know exactly what it's like once you actually get somebody that can be like in your back pocket. I call it like pocket coaching. You know what I mean? Like when you start to spin, because inevitably we get clarity and then we spin. There's always a spin that happens a few days later. So even if you feel like, yes, I can go, I got this, I can do this, a couple days later, you're going to be like, what was I thinking? Where's this clarity that I had? That happens all of us all the time. So that's part of the reason why I learned so much of the high level stuff, but the program I was in didn't have enough one-on-one support. And that's the part that I love to give to. So it's like, this is going to be a hybrid program where you're going to have, yes, it's a group environment, but you're also going to get Voxer support from me, which is like private Voxer support is, if you ask me, the most invaluable thing you can get in coaching these days, because it's like, you get stuck and it's just the quick stuff like, oh frick, what was happening the other day, or can you help me with the wording on this, or hey, I'm building this out, like what do I do next? You know what I mean? You jump in, you get to move forward fast right now. So this is what we're going to do. So we're going to have weekly calls. So I'm calling them the momentum calls. So that's like the wild, wild west. You come with whatever you're struggling with, whatever you're working on, and I stay on the call until everyone has their questions answered. So those are going to happen once a week. I'm also going to be dropping all the training in that you're going to need to run all these events. So from the very beginning of market research, I'm going to give you my spreadsheet that I use with the different tabs along the bottom so that you can track your market research. Every time you have an event, you're going to ask 1 or 2 specific questions for people coming in. You're going to have a tab along the bottom for all your events so that you have one place where all the answers are to refer back to all the time. So whenever you're like, what should I do next? Or what content should I put out? You just go to your sheet and then you just pick something that somebody asked. That's legit words that they're using for your messaging. And it makes life so much easier. It takes the guesswork out of it. So I'm going to share that. I'm going to also walk you through exactly how to create collaborative events. So when you have a summit, from interviewing speakers and what that looks like, to creating the speaker agreement, to creating promo packages that you want to send out ahead of time, you're going to create a landing page and a thank you page. You're going to direct them likely to a Facebook group. That's where most people build communities. I'm going to walk you like literally just step by step so that you just have to come in and like check them off one by one and just get it done. So that's the build it out phase, right? Map it first. We're just like, yeah, when are we doing these events? How many speakers? What's the title? You know, tagline, that kind of stuff. Then we're just like grab the checklist and go build it out one by one. And then we're going to execute. So how are we actually going to generate, you know, interest on social media and stuff like that? But again, the beautiful thing about hosting those types of anchor events is that you don't have to worry if a whole bunch of people out of your audience that may or may not exist come to it, because you know that by hosting a targeted event, targeted leads are coming in from other people. So yes, you're going to promote, of course, to your own stuff, but if you're just getting started or you don't have the right people in your audience, it's not super helpful, right? So we pull in from other people's audiences and then that becomes your audience. So it's so powerful. I love it. And then on the other side, it's going to be masterclasses, challenges, workshops, that kind of stuff. And same thing, I'm going to help you build them out step by step. I'll show you exactly how I do it, how I lay them out, how I figure out what content I want to cover. And then we're going to back that up one step and say, okay, like, how am I going to market to this? Who am I going to invite? All those kinds of things, so that you can go and execute this 6-figure event strategy successfully and know what your process is by the end. Frick, I love this stuff. Okay, so I'm not going to write out all the bells and whistles. I created a landing page, a sales page. I will send it out. I'll drop it in here. You can grab it right now and you can go read about those. But basically, we're going to do Tuesday momentum calls where I'm going to show up and serve the pants off myself. And then we're going to do Voxer coaching, which I think is actually the most powerful part. And then you're going to have trainings and access to all those resources and stuff. Plus, we're going to have a Facebook group where I'll drop some funny stuff in there, because we all need a little comic relief in the world. Let's see here. I'm out of breath again. You can go to my website, marariapel.com, and Ambitious Academy is at the top, but I'll drop it in here for anyone that's live too. Where are we? Chat. Boom, there it is. So it's 6 months. It is $6,000, or you can do monthly $1,111. And we're going to start like our kickoff calls. You also get a private onboarding call with me, so we can like dive straight into exactly what you want, where you want to go, and start to map out exactly what your event strategy is going to look like, so we can hit the ground running right away. So I would love it for anyone who's interested in jumping into this, getting on my calendar for next week and like, let's dive in right away. And then we're going to have I wanted to have like a kickoff call on the 18th of October. And then we're gonna have like our official start date be the following Tuesday, which is October 25th. So just to let you guys know when that's all happening. But at the end of the day, what I want is, you know, when you can take those like really deep breaths of like, because you're just happy and relieved and sighing, like, oh, you feel in control of things. You're just, it's like the best feeling in the world. That's how I want you guys to feel by the end of working with me for 6 months. And I overserve the crap out of my clients because I love it. So if you feel like you've been looking for a coach, a mentor, somebody who's literally failed their way through all this stuff to figure it out first, then I'm your girl. And that's all I have to say about that. So if you have questions, you can obviously DM me, or on the sales page, there's a link to book a call with me just to ask questions. And I think you guys know by now that I'm not slimy, salesy, or pitchy, but I'm excited to see who's coming in, and we're going to go build out these events, and we're going to figure out your process, because one of the biggest things that I know is that you can't follow cookie cutter stuff. You have to find your own flow, your own voice, your own style throughout this stuff. And that's exactly what we're going to lay out in the next 6 months. Okay, sound good? Okay, girls, I'm going to let you go. I will touch base in the DMs, and I hope that this was a great challenge and that you feel like you've gotten some solid pieces of the puzzle for your business moving forward. You're so welcome, Lee. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank
girls.
you.
You're so welcome. Have a great day.
Bye.
Talk soon.